Now we're on. We're on now. We're on now.
Now. When will then be now?
What the fauna?
Welcome to What the Fauna.
Yeah.
Damn it. So today we're changing
animal discussion thingamajig that we've decided to do.
Your animal discussion of the week, the water cooler conversation you're going to have with your coworkers to convince them that you're weird and you don't want them to come over to your house on the weekends.
And with swearing and sex jokes about the various weirdness that we see in nature.
Right. And of which we will teach you how to show the rest of the world, kind of like that Far Side Gallery comic, how to show everyone, don't touch me. You don't need to be brightly colored like a poison dart frog. It helps. You don't have to. You don't need a big horn like a rhino. We'll show you other ways. Well, use your brain.
There's lots of screaming that can be involved even.
You know, that is a great way nature says, don't touch me. Which actually is awesome because that brings us into our topic today of we're not talking about an animal. We're talking about a lot of animals. We're talking about convergent evolution.
I mean, this one could be also what the flora sometimes too, even.
There is some what the flora going on. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Convergent evolution.
You know, like a lot of creatures, when panicked, scream.
Yeah. So.
Like, holy shit balls.
Yeah.
I imagine they are saying.
More or less. Depends.
But anyway, we're your hosts. I am Jen, and next to me, well, not next to me, next to me visually
next to you, and auditorily in the paradigm of next to you.
I mean, if we're talking longitudinal, we're fairly latitudinally, maybe not as close.
Through the power of magic and the internet. And science.
Someday, maybe if we have a chance, we'll talk about how your computer genuinely is magic. Because you don't know how the fuck it works.
I do not know how to fucking. I know how to put one together, but I do not know how it works.
Yeah. Anyway, but it is virtually it is magic because you can't do it.
Yes.
But anyway,
so I'm Whitney.
I'm Jen.
And let's see. Jen and I met in college doing weird animal stuff. And actually, this
legal animal stuff. In fact, endorsed by a university.
At the university.
You make it sound like we're doing something.
We were chopping up animals at the time. Yeah, no.
I don't think when we met, we weren't in the same laboratory. There wasn't.
We were in the same lab.
Oh, we're the first time around?
Well, maybe not the first time around. Oh, yeah, I guess we were in a lot of biology classes together.
We did. There was a lot of biology. Iowa State is really good on the biology. Cutting things up. There's a lot of cutting that goes on.
So, yeah, you did.
Yeah.
You were
dead, if that makes
illustration, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so that basically combines the art major with the science major. So that's not stressful at all.
No, because one you can't control and the other you fuck all can't control.
Yes, exactly.
If your hand cramps, fuck, there's my final.
There it is.
And Whitney was aspiring to jiggle penguins.
That was just one class I took where we went to Antarctica.
You took an entire class. What's the breakdown structure nowadays? 3 credit hours. What is that equivalent? Let's say $5,000. Whitney paid $5,000 to learn about how to jiggle penguins properly.
Actually, that was a little more. I think we went up to 8. I had to take extra loan out to go on that trip to Antarctica.
Actually go to Antarctica to see the penguin, to be told he's not allowed to jiggle them.
I knew I couldn't jiggle a penguin. I have the Antarctic Treaty somewhere in this room.
So our listeners, if you do go to Antarctica with the sole purpose or want to jiggle a penguin because they're 80% fat?
It's like 50% fat.
50% fat.
Actually, here it is. There it is.
Okay, yeah, it's there. All right. So they're really fat. They're a lot of fat.
Yes. Act of 1978.
Be aware that there is an international treaty that says that if you were to pick up a penguin and jiggle it, You have committed molestation of said bird. And
Molestation doesn't mean you're sexually doing anything, people. It just means you're
I
like,
didn't say it was. I didn't
Oh,
say
yeah.
you flew halfway around the world to molest a penguin.
yeah. So
I mean, I mean, you're going
it
to
is so
Antarctica,
weird that I
not
have
Thailand.
a copy of the Antarctic Treaty in my still.
But anyway, different countries. Interestingly enough, different countries who signed the treaty fine
Yeah.
you different amounts. It's like
Nope.
no, they're all the same amount.
It's all agreed upon. So that has probably been adjusted because that's the 1995 version.
Because I thought like if I was like Scottish, there's no penalty
You'd be
because they shouldn't have
fine
let me
based on
there.
the Scottish thing, but they all agreed in the treaty making process. how much
Okay,
stuff was
like
so.
Americans, you got to pay 20,000.
Yeah, I mean, it might
New
be
Zealanders,
euros versus that.
you're
But
totally wonderful, and no one dislikes you. You pay nothing. You didn't mean any harm.
Of course, they have to catch you first. Just saying, there's not a lot of law enforcement down in Antarctica.
Penguins aren't exactly fast either.
Oh,
you meant catch them doing it.
Now we went on this penguin thing, which, by the way, Mark posted, a friend of ours, Mark from college, also posted yet another penguin thing on my Facebook wall. This, mind you, people, I went to Antarctica in 1999.
He did real science.
I went there in 1999, and people are still making penguin jokes at me. Anyway,
you did kind of. Whitney also used to do a charity polar plunge dressed as a giant penguin.
I did that to milk my friends because
he did for charity, but he helped continue the penguin thing.
Yeah. Well, hey, it got me this little award in 2014 for highest individual fundraiser for the polar plunge, which is for the Special Olympics. So,
woo! Actually, that's awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah. But anyway.
Yeah.
So anyway, what my actual degree was in is animal ecology, and then I worked in the zoo field for about 15 years or so. So anyway,
I didn't. I just got pets. And
yes, you got pets. Well, you also are working with a rescue with sulcatas, and
sulcata is a giant tortoise.
Once you get involved to that level, I feel like you're doing a little bit more than just having pets. You're in a rescue, working with other people.
I try to make the pets nice and fat too, just in case it's an extra cold winter.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. I just snuggle with them.
Yes. And then So yeah, and you still do sciencey things, don't you? You're in a lab.
I do. My title is analytical scientist.
Yeah, so basically,
and I got all upset. Someone called me a chemist the other day, and I went, "Oh no!
How dare you!
How dare you!
Dare you!
I'm a scientist.
I don't mix things together like some bizarre alchemist. I put things on petri dishes and look at numbers.
Both.
Anyway,
I don't know what I do.
Now let's go to let's just fast forward to our actual conversation because
Convergent Evolution.
This is how we know things. We did school. We do, and
we did the school stuff.
And we did the school stuff. About it. The professional stuff. And now we're going to talk about Convergent Evolution.
Now we're going to do the silly stuff.
You have the full definition that you were going to state out here.
Now, Convergent Evolution. Now, this means, sorry, I started halfway through a sentence. Okay. Two organisms that look and behave in very similar ways, even though they are distantly related, only very distantly related. Okay. That means they've independently evolved similarities rather than inheriting them from a common ancestor. So their surroundings have put selection pressures on them, and they have evolved similar adaptations to solving those problems.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than just taking the nice and easy genetic route of just like, mom and dad gave me these shiny wings. No, they had to go and do it all on their own. So we talk about this a lot, just when we're talking about basic normal animals. Because we'll be talking about everyone knows convergent evolution. Let's look at flight.
Yeah,
There's so many
almost every
creatures.
book,
Exactly.
every biology book you look at, the first example they give you is flight.
Birds
okay.
do it with feathers. Mammals.
Birds do it. Bees do. Wait, what are we talking about again?
No, that counts. Bees count too.
That
With
doesn't
convergent
count.
evolution, they came about flying a completely different way. They do not share. They share an incredibly distant ancestor with birds. Maybe some single-celled ancestors with birds. But otherwise, they came about their abilities to fly independently. And actually, what's interesting is every single category that we consider like major animal category. So our reptiles, our amphibians, mammals, marsupials. I do not have evidence, but I'm sure there was even a monotreme that could fly.
Monotreme? No. Honestly, I wouldn't put it past it. Monotremes are very hard to determine when they were monotremes. That determining exactly when something switched from marsupial to monotreme or monotreme to
marsupial,
placental, is very tough because those organs tend to not survive the process.
So, your monotremes, for people who aren't total nerds like us, your monotremes are your duck-billed platypus and your spiny echidna are the two surviving ones. All of Australia, they lay eggs.
They're hairy, they make milk, and they lay eggs. Mm-hmm. Which actually,
they don't have nipples, though.
Interesting tangent, though, with regards to this, because I was actually talking with one scientist once upon a time who was discussing the difference between when you determine a reptile versus a mammal, because milk production is the key thing. Because laying eggs isn't the key thing, or having live birth isn't the key thing, because monotremes exist.
Well, and I mean, if you think about it, like certain sharks give live birth, kind of. They don't have a placenta, but they do give live birth.
He had a fantastic way, but he needed more data to prove it, to determine when a species actually became a mammal and was producing milk. Because when an animal eats the protein of another animal, it gets a different carbon in it.
Really?
Like carbon. Yeah. So there's a different form of carbon. So carnivores have a different form of carbon in their teeth, for example. I think it was the teeth. He'll have to correct me. But there was some different form of carbon in the mouth because they were consuming another thing and using that, which then converts differently than a regular carbon atom, just because it's going through the process differently. So if you can find the young and they have the higher like echelon of carbon,
then
that means they were consuming from their mother, which means they were drinking milk.
Oh, that's awesome.
So there is a way to determine it without all that, but you need young, and I think you need their teeth intact to determine, and then they have to burn it to determine which carbon atoms, their types are in there, because there's this weird like effect where the carbon actually shifts depending on where it is on the food chain, if you will. Like plants are one type of carbon. The things that eat plants are another type of carbon. The things that eat plants are another type of carbon.
Exactly. Nausea. That is super cool, though. I did not know that. See, I love.
Yeah, I found that out.
Things.
Yes.
So I mean, still through fossil records and everything, we're still trying to figure out what came from what. We're getting a whole lot better now that we have DNA. But we're still working our way there.
I know we got things so wrong. Which actually,
some things were very, very wrong.
And this gets really with convergent evolution. Like the flight one, that's an easy way. Things wanted to get off the ground, they have to have wings.
Here's one I just learned about today. That's a really difficult one. That they didn't have. They had some inkling, but not totally until they had DNA. Peregrine falcons are not really very closely related to eagles and hawks and things. They're more closely related to parrots.
Yep.
But they have the similar structure, wing structure, similar coloring, all of that of more of the birds, the traditional birds of prey that we think about. But they're more closely related to parrots. And now that we have the DNA, we can look at them and see where they diverge.
Where they diverged off. And there's also things like the raptors were all grouped together once upon a time, but then we found vultures actually are way different because their feet structure is completely different. So we were able to.
So cool.
Yeah, and then there's old versus new world because of all that. Now, actually, speaking of birds that are convergent, All those birds that are like ratites are actually like not as closely related as people think they are. So I'm
Okay.
talking like emus, ostriches, and rheas. Those types of things. Those things that are walking on two legs.
What about the cassowary? Cassowary?
cassowary? Yeah, that would be in that group. The kiwis and things like that.
I
They
see. I
actually.
didn't. Are
What was
kiwis
that?
really in there? Because kiwis are more closely
Yes,
related
kiwis are
to
in there.
dodos,
No,
which
kiwis
or
are actually no. Kiwis are actually related to elephant birds and cassowaries and
okay.
emus, because if you think about it, that's where they are in the world.
So this would be another convergent evolution thing then.
Correct.
That
They're not related at all to dodos. Those are on a whole other
okay.
planet.
So
So what happened
dodos
was,
and kiwis had a similar evolutionary strategy though.
yeah, and the
They
thing
gave
is,
birth to one baby, a giant motherfucking egg. Feel me,
yeah,
ladies. Kiwis give birth to an egg that's a third their body size.
Jesus Christ, that is yes,
Imagine a
not
third
true.
your body size having to come out.
But it
Human
goes more
children,
than that.
not even bad anymore because they're at least a little squishy and malleable,
Yeah,
unless you're my son who liked to, when he was born face up. Hey, everybody, here's some lessons for you. If a baby's born face up, their face is kind of pretty, but they grind that hard head plate right on your tailbone the whole way out. Just like,
yeah. Fun
yeah.
fact.
People are like, oh, that's such a cute baby. And then they look at the mom, and the mom's like, yeah, that's what happened, guys.
You get to see the cute baby. She gets to suffer and pain. So, but the
Yeah,
thing is,
but
like,
non-squishy.
these things, they diverged and started going that direction after the continent split.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't actually share a very common ancestor,
Okay.
relatively speaking. They
I
actually
just kind
started
of
doing
assumed
they all went
terrestrial
flightless.
bird.
They all went two legs. And also another fun fact, they actually all have completely different kidney system or urinary tract
Really?
systems, but they went the similar direction with each one. So when you dissect them, they look different, but they went a similar direction where they have an inflated, I believe, urethra and bladder section.
We only dissected for science.
Yeah, well, yeah. For science, so I mean, you got the cassowaries, emus, and are together because it makes sense. They're all from the same general islandy.
They're all psychotic.
Australian area. Well, emus aren't too bad. I mean,
I don't trust birds.
cassowaries, I trust for nothing. Emus, ostriches.
Cassowary, for those who don't know what a cassowary is, it's a large bipedal terrestrial bird that's the closest living thing to a fucking velociraptor you're going to find on this goddamn planet living right now. They will disembowel you with this little hook thing. Remember Jurassic Park where he's like, they'll hook you and just pull. Yeah, that's it.
The shit out of it. Well, yeah, they really actually target your chest, and then that basically crushes your heart, really. So,
oh, I'm sorry. Guys, I was wrong. They're going after ripping your sternum apart to get to your heart, not necessarily your bowels. My bad.
They just kick you until you stop moving.
Kind of like a kangaroo. Convergent evolution? Maybe.
I had to laugh. I watched a TikTok episode thing the other day, and it was like, these things people think that they can wrestle. And they named 3 things right off the bat, and I was like, I've wrestled.
Wait, that humans think they can wrestle?
Yeah, it was a swan, it was a kangaroo, and it was something else. I was like, I've technically wrestled all of those in my lifetime.
A swan, a kangaroo. What was the other one?
A swan.
A kangaroo.
And an ostrich. Somebody said something.
Ostrich.
An ostrich. I've wrestled all those. I was like, okay, in my career, I've technically wrestled all of those animals.
I would think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would think an ostrich would be fairly easy to get in some sort of like chokehold.
Basically, that's kind of what I did. But the thing is, they come at you, and swans and ostriches, if you surprise them, and here's the key.
They're pissed off?
I'm not going to say
that's like me
go after them
every morning.
or kangaroos. You have to know what the fuck you're doing. And there's a certain strategies you use. And I also do not recommend it, because if you fuck up, you're fucked. Although I did have to laugh. One time I got cornered in a field and with a kangaroo who decided that he was like, I'm gonna fucking kick your ass, and he
and I would be going, you're probably right. You are going to kick my ass.
I was here, and actually you'll laugh at this. because I used my martial arts training, and I immediately went sideways, so he had less body thing to
a smaller target.
If I stood at him straight up, he was just going to hit me in the chest. But I did that. I went sideways like a normal fighting stance, so he had less target. And the thing is, they kick that way, so therefore he didn't have a lot
around you to kick.
He would kick, and he didn't have enough thing to actually get a good oomph on me because he doesn't.
Is this a full-grown kangaroo? Because like a lot of
I think of. Oh no, he was a full-grown. He was 180 pounds. He was 180 pounds, which is full-grown for a Roo, and he was like 6'2", 6'4", somewhere in there.
Right. Have you seen some of the pictures online of like male kangaroos? They are ripped.
Remember, I worked at the Kangaroo Conservation Center. I've seen this for myself.
I mean, these guys have
my 280
and lats,
my 280 biceps. My 280 pound manager one time was like cleaning and didn't notice the male coming up behind him, and one of the males just bear hugged him and threw him 7 feet. And he's just like, "This is just happening."
Remember, go limp.
Yeah, I just remember
impact. Go limp.
Yeah, I remember. Actually, I hated this facility because the managers were assholes. But so I'm there getting stuck in the corner by this Roo. I turn sideways, and I'm just doing the like slap deflect thing.
Oh, good, you're doing Wang Chung on a
basically on these fucking feet trying to get me. And he like if he gets too close,
I'm like with my
other hand, I'm like radioing you like, "Hey guys, I need help out here." I'm kind of pinned in the corner, and then eventually I got away because I deflected him enough, and then he like lost enough body momentum. And the thing about a kangaroo, this is not where we're at with Convergent Evolution, but I think people
just go with it. I love kangaroo stories. Like I said, I'm going to give you shit, but I'm highly jealous.
I deflect him, and the thing about a kangaroo is their tail is very stiff. And what's the tail attached to?
Their body?
Their spine. So if you pick it up, the rest of the body has to go that direction. So
did you pick up and body slam a kangaroo? Is that ethical?
No, what you do is if you can get to the tail, so I deflected him, and then he like kind of went slightly, so his tail was exposed, and I reached around, grabbed his tail, lifted it up, and then that shoves his hands onto the ground. And he's just like, and then they freak out because they're like, "What the fuck?"
No bueno.
Yeah, okay. But that tail is fucking meaty, and if you hold too hard, I have another story with this.
What, their tails break off like lizards?
No, you go flying with them.
Oh.
So you have to hold it, and you got to do that. But the thing is, you don't want to hold too hard because if they do get a good kick, even though they're 180 pounds and I was like 230 at the time, I'm way more now. Thank you, aging. They fly. And he would have made me fly with him. One time, I remember somebody was like, "I think this kangaroo's lethargic," and we all went out to check, and we're like, "This guy's pretty lazy. This is like normal behavior for this guy." And she's like, "No, he's lethargic. I think he's lethargic." So then my boss looked at me because I was the primary kangaroo handler.
Wrangler. This is the proper term.
I was the best person at it on staff, hands down. I have another story for that, but anyway. She told me, they're like, "Okay, grab them by the tail, because if they're lethargic, we'll grab them by the tail, lift them up, and then kind of guide them into a trailer where we want them to go." So we go do that. I do that, and I'm holding on because at that time you do hold on because if you let go, they're going to be gone. And then the second catch is never going to happen.
Well, if you have to catch them a second time, it kind of proves they're really not that lethargic, doesn't it?
Exactly. Well, this is what proves it. So I grab this tail as hard as I can. The staff member who was like, no, he's lethargic. And three of us are going, "No." Okay, Whitney, grab him. So I grab him, and he fucking just launches himself. And I had a death grip on his tail just in case. And I went flying 10 feet in the air, and I like hit the ground, skid another 3 feet. I get up, dirt in my face, on my chest, start dust myself off, look back at him and go, "He's not lethargic."
So I teach my son. I'm working on teaching him. Are you hurt or are you injured? Because there's a definite difference.
Yeah,
I'll still kick you up and hug you and kiss you no matter what and take care of you. But if you're injured, we're gonna go see a doctor. Now I have a new one. Are you lazy or are you lethargic?
Yes. Are you just a little tired? Are you lethargic?
Are you lethargic
No,
or are you
actually,
just being lazy?
but that's also kangaroos and all that. That also goes into another convergent evolution thing,
Mhm.
bipedalism, where
True.
things start moving on two legs, which all birds technically are bipedal because
They don't really have much of a choice, do they?
they chose to
Actually,
make
no.
their arms
There
or their
is there is an
forelegs.
exception to that. Anytime anyone says always, there's always an exception. The Hootsit, the South
Hoots it.
American Hootsit does
I
when
don't.
they're babies, they have claws and they can climb trees. So they're
Okay.
kind of a quadruped. They lose the claws and they lose their ability to climb some point in adolescence.
Oh yeah, probably just their size gets too big.
Yeah, maybe. Oh, no, I think the claws kind of go back. I don't think they retract, but I think they just fall off. I don't know. I'm referencing a children's book here
Oh,
called
okay.
Stinkbird. Um I did check it up the site that it is a real creature, the science is real, but my son picked it up
How do
because
you
it had the word
spell that? I don't know
stinkbird on
that.
it. Begins with an H.
Oh, the hoots it starts with an H.
The hoot look up stinkbird, South American stinkbird.
Big bird. Okay.
A smartass. Smartass. So we all think, we're all good on birds, You know,
Oh yeah.
I don't
Oh, that thing reminds me of a. Oh, what was that?
they also rub feces all over themselves so they
H
seem
O
less
A.
appetizing.
For anybody?
Convergent evolution. Sloths
Yes.
shit on themselves occasionally.
And there's actually a lot of things that do that. So Hootsin, for those that are curious to look this up later, is Hoatzin. I would have never gotten that. Hootsin or Stinkbird. They remind me of God. What was that reptile bird thing? It's the I have brain farts with words, people.
Are we talking about something that
It's in the
is
fossil record.
extinct, or are we
Yeah,
talking mythological, cryptid? Okay,
extinct. The thing that was
I don't know either.
like,
I think I know what you're talking about. That there's it's like embedded in stone. It's a fossilized
yeah.
thing with the
Oh,
feathers.
well,
I
there's
can't
tons of
remember the
copies
name.
of them.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
It is the oh god dang it. It is the what the okay.
Well,
God.
Whitney looks through that.
Archaeopteryx.
An incredibly important fossil find.
Yes.
Yes. Fortunately, it did not get turned into oil.
Yes.
I
Although
think. Okay, so we got tons of convergent evolution happening all over the place. But we
yes.
also have something which is kind of like de-evolution. There can be kind of a convergent de-evolution. It's not always gaining a specialized trait. It can be losing one too.
Right.
So we have snakes. They don't have legs cuz they don't need them. There's actually a creature called, a group of creatures called the Silicilian.
Sicilian. Sicilians.
I'm Sicilian. They're not. No, they're not.
This is
I'm just kidding. They're a legless amphibian.
yes. I talked about them, I think, at another time on this podcast.
I think you have. Totally.
Because the babies ate their skin.
Probably. I have no doubt they do, because as you learn on this podcast, we're going to talk about every fucked up thing there is.
So what she's talking about is
eating mama's skin
it is
ain't nothing compared. Look up koalas, what they eat.
yeah. So basically, what you're talking about is, I would say that they're more worm-like than they are snake-like, but they both co-evolved this lack of limb structure.
They did. I mean, it's easier to get around. They didn't need them. And, why waste the energy keeping fingers and toes going when you're not using them?
Let me spell this for the people who want to look it up later. Caecillians. And I do have to look that up every time.
The A and the E should not be in those positions, god damn it.
Basically, it's an amphibian, so it's mostly related to newts and frogs,
salamanders,
all that stuff. But they are legless. And what they do is they actually burrow into the mud and the muck, and usually are found in like rainforesty areas where it's nice and moist. They like it moist.
And it would make sense. I mean, if you looked at the two creatures, you would automatically assume, hey, snakes evolved from this type of amphibian. They didn't.
Nope.
They evolved through the normal amphibian to reptile dinosaur
But they
category
all
that we all did. But they de-evolved a certain, quadrupedity, whatever, to fit into the environmental niche that they have that they do. Which
yes.
is actually, leads me. This is kind of a segue episode. This brings me into my
Yes.
favorite segue ever. Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Okay.
Now, there was, when I was young, many decades ago, that hurt. The
Yeah.
thought was, why were Tyrannosaurus Rex's limbs, their front legs, so tiny? Because the prevailing thought at that time was that they were de-evolving. They were not necessary. They weren't useful. They were de-evolving into not having them anymore. That has been shown to be false. Tyrannosaurus Rex were around for so long that if that was true, they wouldn't have had them. And the later fossils wouldn't have them. They didn't. They were around
Correct.
for millions of years, plenty time. So they had to serve a purpose. Now, this is where we get into what purpose could these little arms have served then? It wouldn't help them eat. It wouldn't help them capture prey. What possibly could be the reason for these little arms? There's a scientist, I can't remember his name. If we someday get show notes, I'll put it in there. He came up with an interesting theory. There is a type of snake that has little limbs, very little limbs. They are used to tickle their sexual partner, to help arouse their partner.
Yeah, go on.
So he used that logic, looked at the T-Rexes and said, hey, those are foreplay arms is what those are. They're
Which happens a lot in nature too. A lot of snakes that not all snakes don't have nothing.
Oh, I thought we were talking about foreplay because I was like,
well, no, I am.
T-Rex just went up, ladies.
I can't remember.
Female T-Rexes, they knew what was going on.
Boas and pythons, I think, both actually possibly. But they still have actually a vestigial pelvis kind of area, and they have two little nubby bits where legs would be, but they're not actually connected to the little pelvic bone area. And what they use that for is to play with the cloaca. Of the female. So this is not the most unheard of thing where the little vestigial limbs are there just to, hey, baby, let's get it on.
I like to think of, we do know Rex means king. So Tyrannosaurus Rex, king of the terrible lizards, he truly was the king. He knew how to cuddle the queen properly. He could take care of her needs. I appreciate a good, what would that be? An attentive lover.
Yes.
So now whenever I think of Tyrannosaurus Rex, of course, big scary teeth, and a very considerate lover.
Now, I was looking at a picture of the Sicilian thingy. I always say Sicilian. Whether it's pronounced that way, I don't know. I like to call it.
It's a whole nother syllable. I bet it doesn't.
Especially in the presence of Genevieve, I like to say Sicilian. Big slimy snake.
So back to the legless amphibian.
All we know is Sicilians are slimy snake-like creatures.
Excuse me. Well, it is kind of moist there too.
I was looking at the picture, and they do have this black coloration on the top of them and a light yellow-white coloration on the bottom of them, which brought me to another form of convergent evolution where things tend to match up because there's one very common thing throughout nature called counter shading. And almost everything that has to do, a lot of things have that kind of pattern going on. Particularly
we did touch on in our last episode about the slow loris.
Yeah, the slow loris a little bit. Well, no, this is different.
Well, oh, okay. Sorry. My bad.
Counter shading, think of the coloration pattern on a penguin. God damn it, we went back to penguins.
Back to the penguin.
But so now think of the shark, think of the killer whale. Sicilian has the same pattern. Dark on top, light on bottom. That's what's called counter shading. And this is one of the biggest forms of convergent evolution because there's one trait on our planet that's always true. The sun and light source is up and below you. So what the reason for that is if something's below you looking up, You want to be brightly colored to blend in. So all birds, if you think about them, are light on bottom, dark on top. Because if you're flying above it, you have the dark earth below you, so that you need to blend in with that dark earth. If something's looking up, you need to blend in with the light and the clouds in the sky. Or even if you're swimming, or if there anytime that you're dealing with 3D things. And Sicilians are often in water, which is why they cause that. They like the mud and the muck, but they also like the water basin type stuff.
Okay, so I have an interesting question. This segue doesn't even connect. So one of the things that I always learned was the warmer patches, like on a cat. The cat's belly is usually the warmest and the lightest colored. I always thought that lighter colored hair dealt with being warmer.
No.
Like the warmer parts of the body. No, I'm just nuts. Okay, I don't know where I picked up that tidbit. Huh?
Cats climb trees. They have to deal with that 3D effect.
Yeah, no, I know, but I for some reason I thought there was something also to do with the lightness of hair color dealing with the warmth of the creature's body. No, I'm just
not really.
Because I remember it's back to kangaroos. The Brookfield Zoo used to have this great program where you would spend a day with a zookeeper, and I did once. And they had a kangaroo. They'd put out heating mats in the winter for these kangaroos, and there was one that just laid on it all day long, and she ended up with white patches in her fur, and they think it was from being on that heating mat too much.
It does have to do with the heating mat, but it doesn't have to do with evolution. That's called the denaturing of proteins, because the proteins in her fur got denatured and it changed the color of them.
Permanently too. It's not just
well, not permanently. It would have just, as long as they keep doing it, then yes. It'll probably last a year, but as the new fur, if they got rid of the heating mat and let the new fur grow in, the fur would not become discolored.
Okay.
That is like the effect of putting something out in the sun or something on it.
So everybody who wants to have that beautiful silver-like hair, you don't need to do that. You just need to put a really hot heating pad on your head for a long time.
Yeah, honestly,
you need to do dyes, just denature the protein on your hair.
Or the fact that it might cook your brain. But yes, that would be so. That actually would be that effect.
Yeah, because the chemicals from the dye are doing a great job for that.
Exactly. Well, I mean, honestly, it doesn't take a lot to cook your brain.
So philosophically, I'm of the mind of you pick your poisons. You're choosing how you die. We're all gonna die. It's nature. It's part of the great wheel. So pick your way you're gonna die. To each their own. Whitney, I think, is on what is the alcohol percent of that beer? I'm looking up like I could actually see through 10%. Okay. See, he's picking how he dies.
It's a small can.
For those who are watching this video, Whitney's a big man, so a can that big in his hands, that's not even a tall boy. I don't know. That's like Foster's.
It's a crowler. It's 32 ounces.
Okay. He's treating a crowler like a single beer. Lovely. So more Convergent Evolution, more fun different ones that I wish we could have people call in or something. Anteaters.
Eventually we will have that effect, and it'll be more like chat adding in.
Another favorite of mine, the panda.
Yes.
So pandas have thumbs. Yes. But they don't have thumbs like we have thumbs. They have 5 fingers and a thumb.
Right. So
their wrist bone actually evolved out.
And so add to that. You have the red panda and you have the giant panda.
I am thinking giant panda.
Right. They both have that. They're not related.
Oh, that's right. It's just a name thing.
Yeah.
The red panda is more closely related to
raccoons.
Raccoons, thank you.
So they're raccoons. So they're in the weasels. And then you got the giant panda, which is actually a bear. But they both evolved that weird thumb structure. But they evolved it for different reasons. Because the
giant pandas, they hold on to their bamboo to eat it, so it doesn't.
Right.
The thumb thing acts like a hook to hold on to it.
The red panda uses it to climb upside down.
Which is weird, because we don't see any other creatures that climb having it.
But the thing is, they also hold bamboo, because they both have. So maybe it has more to do with diet. About maybe if there's an expert that's chiming in, go ahead, correct us.
We love it.
But it could be that it has more to do with the fact that they are both bamboo eaters, and then they were like, hey, also we're small enough to climb, and we climb better than, well, honestly, they both kind of climb. The panda bear still can climb, but yeah.
Okay, so we also have a marsupial that has a thumb, though. The koala has a thumb.
Which also eats something similar to bamboo,
but there's, I'm going to have to count toes. I believe theirs is more, if you want to consider what humans have, the true thumb.
Ooh,
I believe it's...
You want to? Okay, go on. Yeah.
So theirs is not a modified wrist bone. Theirs is actually a phalange.
Correct.
So another thumb that evolved from another place. Because they're, I mean, obviously we are not descendants of koalas, and koalas are not descendants of us.
Technically, they have 2 thumbs.
They have 2 thumbs.
They have 3 fingers and then 2 thumbs on the side.
2 thumbs. Oh, and even though one's, kind of coming posterior, the other coming anterior, it's still their thumbs.
No, they're both completely sideways. Like
they are. Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. It looks like, imagine if we had 2 thumbs going sideways. Now, actually, you want to know another one? Then I always make this joke, because there's another creature that has opposable thumbs. Raccoons generally have them in general, too.
They're so cute.
But something that most people don't think of that does have it. And I always make jokes because they are going to take over the world during the next nuclear apocalypse, because they're also bipedal.
Okay.
Komodo dragons.
I see. I think the age of lizards is gone, but Komodo dragons.
They have thumbs. They can stand up for as long as they really want to, because actually, I believe they mate standing up is how they mate. So they have to be bipedal for the mating situation.
So they're mating. They're mating belly to belly.
Yeah, they're mating belly to belly. Cloaca to cloaca.
Cloaca to cloaca. So anyone who likes doing tango or salsa, go watch how they do it, because you know what? You might pick up that we learn things from animals all the time. You might learn your new salsa move by watching some Komodo dragons.
Put in your browser Komodo dragon sex positions.
Yeah, I mean, the Komodo dragon has a lot of and I wonder about, I don't know that much about their relatives and their ancestry, because they have so much specialized evolved adaptations.
Yep, and
they're venomous. Their mouths are like.
And that goes into the convergent thing, because last episode we were talking about the
slow
venom in the mouth, which is basically altered salivary glands, which originally people thought that the Komodo dragon just had, and I mentioned it then,
so much bacteria in their mouth. Yeah.
Which, yes, it does. But also, the real thing, though, is they actually are now finding what would they call primitive toxins. I did want to go back to that de-evolution thing. I don't like the term de-evolution, because it makes a thought process with people that isn't necessarily correct. Evolution goes one direction, and it is whatever direction the environment tells it to go.
That is true. So it's a re-evolution?
Goes backwards. Nothing goes backwards. Some things will go away, but that's because they're not necessary.
Okay. So maybe we could use the term re-evolution of leglessness.
No, I would just say evolution. I just like to just say evolution. It's just things have changed.
We're changing with it.
Market. The job market has changed. You have to get new skills.
That's just an excuse to pay you less, right?
Oh no, it's an excuse to be assholes in our society, to put the what is it? Which one?
Put the onus on you.
We're the poor people. So we're the which one? We're the we're the proletariat. It's the way for the bourgeoisie to put the proletariat against each other.
I like that. I like the way it sounds, but I didn't. Oh, yeah. So you know how we were going to talk about how sometimes it happens, this convergent evolution happens in fauna as well.
Yes.
Flora. Excuse me. Flora.
Fauna's animals, flora. Plants.
Damn it. They were both fairies in Sleeping Beauty. Flora, fauna. Merriweather. Yeah, got all 3 of them.
Because one probably had to deal with plants and one had to...
I don't know. One was pink and one was green? Yeah, whatever. Anyway, so... plants that eat animals and eat insects. So you have your Venus flytrap that everybody knows. and a pitcher plant where the insect will go down in and get to digest it. Very not related very much, distant relative, but they both adapted incredibly unique ways to take in complex proteins in the form of animals. Well, mostly insects, but occasionally I think the pitcher plants are big enough to get mice.
And and actually some of the Venus flytraps can actually get mice as well.
Really?
Depends on which one. And then I'd have to look into it. I think that there's another one too, because there's also the corpse flower.
That's right. That
which
smells
smells
like
horrible because it smells like a dead thing, which is why it got its name. But guess what? Dead things attracts a whole lot of flies that do the same thing, and then
they can eat them.
I'm trying to remember if the corpse flower does it to eat them or if it does it to pollinate. Actually, you know what?
I think it might be pollinating.
I think that one uses it to pollinate. But but then it co-evolves some things like pitcher plants use certain smells and things to attract them in. But yeah, actually, I think you're right.
You know what? And there's some really cool stuff because I mean, evolution is basically a game of chase.
Yes.
One creature's evolving one thing to get better resources, and there's somebody chasing it. It's chasing one thing, something's chasing it. It's all everything continues to evolve. When you stop evolving, either you hit it perfect, kind of like a shark. Even them, they're still doing stuff, but
I don't like that because technically that's a bad viewpoint in my mind because it teaches people the wrong thing. Now I'm activating
the educator. Here I am going, sharks are the sweet spot.
Thing is, everything is continually evolving. The thing that makes a shark in our mind has not changed. But does the shark stay the same? No. Because the species that used to exist no longer exist because basically anything that didn't die off anything that doesn't match our current day sharks died off. So they are always changing, always moving in a different direction, but it all depends on the
so their outward adaptations, the
don't look
as
we'll
fancy.
call it the macro parts that we tend to focus on, like the fin and the this and that.
Teeth,
those had no need to change, so those stayed the same. But individual traits, which is why we have the big sharks and the small sharks, and we have different sizes of sharks. And then once the real giant sharks died off because those predatory sharks didn't work. However, what do we have now instead? That's a giant shark that still exists. Whale shark.
Right? Oh, whale shark. Yeah,
which
they're awesome.
Does not eat the same way as the large carnivorous sharks historically did, which were basically just great white.
They're more filter feeders like whales.
Yeah, exactly. Another convergent evolution. We're hunting for krill. We evolved similar structures to go after krill.
Poor krill.
Oh, yes.
All right. So I mean, there's some sweet spots you can kind of hit, but you still got to keep moving. You got to keep moving.
The thing is, those sweet spots, we're thinking about it from a human perspective. Yeah, they still exist now. But if you look at the grand scheme of evolution, not so much. And then the one thing that I found is interesting is convergent evolution also really confuses scientists and has for a long time. But you mentioned earlier, genetic testing has helped parse that out. This reminds me of a paper that I wrote in. I love gothic things, so therefore I have a love of bats, as the kind of theme that we're in. So in college, I wrote a lot of papers on bats. And one of the evolution papers that I wrote
Bats are adorable too, though. That little fox bat with the little face.
Right. And I was trying to find the origin of species, which is always what you try to find. It's a fun thing for scientists to fully discover and be like, I am 100% sure. Very rarely do we actually know where the origin of species is because not all fossil records survive. Or origin of a clade.
We're missing
one branch
so much of the fossil record. I mean, all that we know is amazing, but I would think that we are missing probably out of 100%, 99.9% of the fossil.
99.999%, yeah. But the thing is,
we're doing good though. Pat us human brains on the back.
For those that are when I say clade, if you're making like an evolutionary branches and you're kind of like making the family tree of how the different species existed, a clade would be one of those branches that just makes a bigger branch, lots of other branches off of it.
Mm-hmm.
So chiropterans or bats, they well, at one point in time they were thought to be part of the primate group, and there was a scientist in the 80s who really pushed it. And one of the reasons was there's two weird convergent evolution things that happened. One, the hemoglobin in the blood of bats matched a few proteins that also matched in humans. However, that didn't turn out to be the same. I think the DNA that creates it is different. However, it's the same, very similar protein in the end. So that's kind of a convergent way. And then the other thing had to do with the eye, the way they see, because they have color vision similar to how a primate has color vision. So he thought that they came from primates. But here's the thing. What do most bats eat?
Bugs?
No. You just mentioned one who was very cute.
Fruit?
A lot of bats eat fruit. And the historical bat, further back on the clade, actually ate a ton of fruit. And so what actually turned out was they have a similar protein in their eyes to see the similar color shade, i.e. the cones in their eyes, are the proteins to make their cones are very similar to primates, not because they're actually related to each other, but because they just both ate the same things. So seeing those colors were good things because then you can find your food.
You go, hey, that looks riper than that one over there.
Because basically the original idea was there's this thing. Actually, I mentioned it. I mentioned a lot of things last podcast.
We do that.
Oh no, I just suddenly forgot the prosimian, the flying lemur. The flying lemur was. They used to think that it was related to bats because honestly, if you look at a flying lemur, it looks like a flying fox, but with like little glidey wings, like a flying squirrel.
Instead of the webbing,
but the way the structure is, everything
between leg and arm.
Yes, instead of between the fingers, which is what a bat is. But the person had an idea, but when they started looking at the fossil record, the bats were older. The DNA just did not match. So basically, bats got that vestigial wing thing going long before, and then basically the flying lemur, which I'm not even sure is a primate, just went off on its own. It just went in its own direction, not related at all. Looked very similar to flying foxes, similar area, not at all related. Once DNA got big and, really the polymerase chain reaction, the PCR stuff, in the late 90s, early 2000s.
We were able to kind of determine they are not related.
Yeah, once that started going, because the problem before was, it was a similar process with why we couldn't make too many atomic bombs. We just couldn't, we only had so much uranium at the time. We came up with a process that said, hey, we can purify the fuck out of this.
Are you suggesting we had not fully exploited the continent of Africa and its people yet?
No.
We've been exploiting them for a while, but a different type.
No. Actually, this is an Iowa State legend too. This is from Iowa State.
Does this have to do with the Manhattan Project?
Yeah, we were part of the Manhattan Project, not because the process to make uranium fully pure was invented at Iowa State. There's that wooden building, so they were making pure uranium without regard because they didn't know what radiation did at the time. And
I'm near Chicagoland now, which is the chain reaction.
Yeah. So basically, I'll tie this story in. So basically, back in the day, they could only get like a gram or so of uranium. So whenever they were doing experiments, it was like super valuable. And then literally, a guy at Iowa State made this brick, a gold brick of pure uranium, which nobody had ever seen before.
Hey guys, look what I can do!
Rode it on the train in a regular briefcase to the Manhattan Project, I think in Illinois or whatever the hell, wherever.
Yeah, no, that was probably going on in Chicago because they were trying to do the chain reactions out of Chicago.
It went there.
I believe on a squash court or a pickleball court.
So who knows how many people got cancer because that guy was carrying this pure uranium in an unleaded.
Fuck it, we're not Nazis.
And then so until they discovered that, they didn't have enough uranium to do lots of experiments. So when polymerase chain reaction came out, what it did was, well, we can only get so much DNA out of this thing. Except PCR goes, hey, we can take this small amount of DNA, make tons of it.
Make tons of it so we can do all the testing.
What's that? We only have one barely hair of a creature from 1 million years ago? Don't worry. We can make tons of DNA to keep doing more tests on it.
And keep comparing it to this, that, and then, even store it. So when there are better tests.
So once that came out, then we were able to do a lot more DNA tests and a lot more checks to compare it to other stuff. And that's when we started going, oh, some of these things we thought were alike are actually not related. Like the ratites. Forever, ratites were assumed to have evolved during Pangea. Then it turns out they all evolved well after Pangea, aka the
What's the ratite?
That's the ostrich, rhea, and
thank you. Sorry.
Emu. Those types of things. Those
bipedal let's be together.
Birds. Well, all birds are bipedal. Those flightless birds that make lions.
Except we went into the hootsit. Not always bipedal.
Kind of. Yeah. It uses its lips.
All right. So we're probably going to touch back on convergent evolution because there's also something called parallel evolution. But just so you're aware that there is convergent evolution. It's totally
parallel evolution is one type of convergent.
Okay. Yeah.
So parallel evolution is where
not
they
quite
don't
semantics,
meet.
but a little bit.
It's where they don't meet. So that would be like insects and birds flying. That's the parallel evolution.
Okay.
Kind of thing.
Well, so all right. So I suppose most of our podcasts are fairly sacrilegious. I'm going to go a step deeper, though. We're going to end on one beautiful convergent evolution that nobody really thinks about, and everyone kind of assumes doesn't happen. Homo sapien is not the only humanoid species. We all kind of heard of Neanderthal. Do you know there are like 9 now that they found fossil records of?
Oh, yeah.
9 independently evolved bipedal big-brained things.
And then what happened? There's 2 theories, depending on we either did one of 2 things, and I'm going to actually bring something else in.
But hold on, wait. So let's talk about. There was one Neanderthal shares a distant evolutionary, common ancestor with humans, but it wasn't the same like troop of primates that Neanderthals and Homo sapiens came from. There's another one that developed in South America. There's another humanoid species that developed in South Asia.
Whenever they merged, they would either kill them or there's another thing
interbreed.
That's what happened to possibly the Neanderthal. I had an
Ancestry.com and stuff is now tracing the amount of Neanderthal DNA you have in you.
I had an ex who was an anthropology major, and she kept wanting me to do that DNA test because I have a very thick brow ridge.
See, that's a bad stereotype, though.
And I have very long toes. Like I can pick it up with my toes, and I can. So between that and then just my sheer size, she's just like, I want you to get that test to see how much.
I want to see if you're pod Neanderthal. But that's what. So humans are often called a super species. I believe we're categorized now, is because all competition of a similar adaptation, like all these other humanoid species, we have either slaughtered or interbred with. We've basically obsoleted and destroyed them all. Like,
which honestly that happens all the time in nature. So it's always that question.
Well, makes me think. The guy who wrote Highlander, did he know this? There can be only one.
But actually, so speaking of this Neanderthal, there is a fantastic book by Michael Crichton that actually covers the subject.
Really?
13th Warrior.
I did not. See, I saw that was kind of a Beowulf type tale, and I was like, oh, well, I'll just read Beowulf.
Because if you should read the book.
I went after the primary source. Thank you. Sorry, that was a scientific slam for people unaware of that.
So the book is called Eaters of the Dead.
Okay.
And in the movie, they make them out to just look like a tribal bestial thing. In the book, they basically describe them as Neanderthals, the people that he fights and kills. The trolls were Neanderthals.
See, I don't know a ton about a lot of the other species. I know quite a bit about Neanderthal. And what they think sociologically they were more independent.
Just to let people know, It's not Neanderthal. It's Neanderthal because that's the way they pronounce their name. I'm joking. That's.
I was gonna say, are you fucking kidding me?
No, it's because of the name of the cave that their bones were first found in, which is like Norwegian, so you don't pronounce that It's Neanderthal is how it's pronounced. I stole that joke from a comedian.
Okay, that was good, but I was just like, dude, wait. You had me for a little bit of a second.
You know, I think I stole that from Hank Green. I might have stolen that from Hank Green.
It's good. So
That's
I mean, I hate to go after the whole like religious concept, but I don't know. I kind of think of if there is a God, he's more of an intelligent guy. He's not just like poof, Adam, poof, Eve. Or should we go with Lilith? Or I can't remember what the other one was. There were many. Forgive me, but Adam had quite a few wives. Okay, Eve wasn't the first, which kind of makes it sound like did God fuck up? Did God fuck up there? Because he kind of went, Adam, I made you a partner, Lilith, and Adam was like, gonna be a bitch from the start. No.
Or you have a book written by a bunch of guys and it's just matching up with whatever storyline they want. Because technically, well, we're not going to go into a religious thing.
But anyway, so we got a lot of different humanoids. So as DNA testing evolves and stuff and gets better and more precise, we're going to find out probably a lot more about the different humanoid species that we still might be made up of. Now, this does not give you permission to go yell at that weird-looking guy on the subway. Look, a convergent evolution and like humanoid species. Please don't do that.
We all are one species. We are all one species. Races don't even exist according to biology because we don't even fit the category to subspeciate.
No, we don't.
What happened was they did look at the mitochondrial DNA, and humanity was starting to go into subspecies because of things like mountains and rivers. And then we invented boats. And then it stopped. And everybody started fucking each other because we're like, "Ooh, you look exotic. Oh, you look exotic too."
Right? Like, hey, you know what? And I think that's why boats were created so that we could fuck them over there.
Speaking of the intermating of other species, fun fact. So there's two types of every species on the planet more or less has one mite type thing living in its hair and drinking its blood.
Oh, yes.
Except for humans.
We don't anymore?
No, we haven't for a long time. We have two. We have the lice in our hair. And then we have another one we call crabs.
Different type of hair.
But here's the thing. No.
Here's my question. Did those evolve specifically for primates? Or did they just like fleas?
It gets worse. The crabs, the pubic lice that we have,
look strangely like the amphibious crab crustaceans. Okay,
it has genetically been tested, and its most closest relative is the mice that grow on gorillas.
Okay.
We were fucking gorillas. Well,
okay, so we are going to do a podcast. We're going to do a podcast on animal myths, and I'm sure we will get to koalas and chlamydia.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's a myth or it's true. But I have heard that the rumor is that humans got chlamydia from fucking koalas because koalas have a lot of chlamydia. That's the rumor. I'm not saying it's true.
Okay, fine. I'll talk about it then, but I can tell you now.
But anyway, so our crabs. So could a gorilla crab live on a human?
That I don't know, and I am not willing to do that. I do not find that experiment is ethical.
Oh, gee, you don't? I bet you there is some government agency who would fund that research, though. Why not?
Is there a gorilla boy somewhere? Is there a gorilla boy? There's not a bat boy.
So look this one up. We probably won't go into. No, we'll probably spend an entire episode on it. Russia during World War II was trying to create a super soldier, and they funded a couple biologists, geneticists to mate. They wanted to mate primates. They didn't give a shit what. It was kind of whatever the dealer could get them. So they got orangutans, chimpanzees,
I'm gonna have to research
gorillas,
this. Oh
any
god.
of them, and tried to interbreed them with humans. It
Yeah,
was
I can see
not
somebody doing
very
something
yeah, it was
in a
pretty botched. Well, Russia was trying to make
turkey
a
baster.
super well, not always. They were trying
Don't
to make some sort of super
I'm
soldier
using
that
the
could eat.
turkey baster for my brain. I'm hoping for humanity's sake that they use
So
turkey
there were
baster.
many women and men, humans, that participated in these experiments to try. And this is before we knew about
Oh god, why
gametes, before we knew about really, how hybrids
wait,
happened. What?
what year was this?
This is World War II.
They knew about no, that would have been after the sex gene and gametes were understood because that was in the 30s.
Okay, well then they were just idiots, and I think the scientists, I'm going to air quote scientists who Russia
Yeah.
employed to do this, I think
Well,
they were just some kinky
they just
bastards.
barely knew about sex and gametes and stuff. They didn't know fully about how DNA 100% worked, but they
Because
knew.
we do have some species like the mule. It is an odd number of gametes
Yeah, I want to say
that
this.
create it. That's why it's asexual or it can't
Yeah,
reproduce. Usually you have to. We'll probably do an episode on this too. You have to have an even number of gametes in order for the. No, you don't.
oh,
No, fuck,
I'll explain that later.
fuck. Just cut this part out of the episode. Then just say
No,
fuck,
it's
fuck.
staying in, but we can talk about it for a future episode.
All right,
to get
but
more sure.
anyway, so yeah,
I have
so
to
look
look.
up some of that Russian experiments. Whitney's gonna
Do
go
I have to
look
look up this
right
Russian
now.
experiment? I don't. God damn it, my browser. We're going to be looking up what Komodo sex positions, and then
Koala
Russian
chlamydia.
fucking primates. What?
Russians fucking primates.
Oh god damn
Yeah.
it. Okay.
You know what? I always assume, people are like, oh, they can, the government can spy on your history and can spy on what you're doing. You know what? Go for it. Go for it. I bet you'll go blind before I do. Let's have some fun here. Yeah, you're gonna be washing your eyeballs out with bleach while I'm still going, are you sure?
Yeah.
I am actually, I do want to know what noise a kimono dragon makes when having sex. As someone who runs a tortoise rescue, if you're having a bad day, look up what a tortoise sounds like having sex. It is by far one of the fucking most hilarious noises you will ever heard. Here,
Komodo
excuse me.
dragon, if I recall, is more frightening.
It could be. It could be funny. It could be fun. But actually, I brought up all the different humanoids as proof there isn't a god. If there is proof there is a god, it's because of the noises things make when they're having sex. Nobody else would do that except a god that has a sick sense of humor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't want to know how many parents have complained to me when I worked in the zoo field about the animals having sex when they were having a field trip. I'm like, we don't control that. And also, let them have their fun.
Right? They're not in their natural environment. Otherwise, I guess how much they have sex. That's a great way to tell. Are you lazy or lethargic today, dude?
It's a
Does
sign
sex
of good
arouse
health.
you?
We use it as a sign of good health. It's a normal behavior. All right.
This is going to become a test for zoos everywhere. Suddenly they're going to be showing if you had just had some kangaroo porn on hand, it would have saved you from being thrown by that goddamn kangaroo. You could have showed it some porn. It would have said, yes, I'm just lazy today. And you wouldn't have had to get thrown by a kangaroo.
Oh, I have so many stories. One of these episodes, I guess we're going to just have horrible stories Whitney has from the Kangaroo Center.
Yes. But anyway, to all of our fans, we love you.
Yeah. Thanks for
listening. Stay thirsty for knowledge and weird stuff.
I would say we went on at least 1.5 tangents this episode. At least.
If you wanna, put that to like square that or higher power, yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
So kind of we're gonna, don't worry, we'll be back on our next episode to an animal. And we'll deep dive into that.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's my turn.
Oh,
because you just did the slow Laura, so I think it's my turn.
Oh, okay. We did this joint. So this,
yeah.
Yes. Excellent. All right.
He's good with animals, not mathematics. They don't always go together. Just.
Actually, I used to be good at math, and then I took calculus.
That's just imaginary shit that doesn't
Right?
actually
What's that?
exist.
It doesn't exist.
It doesn't really.
I don't know why I took the advanced calculus too, because there was biology calculus. Actually, I took both biology calculus and engineering calc, and I
So
don't
we've
know
learned another thing about Whitney today. He is
what.
a genuine masochist.
Yes, I mean, yes.
There might be a little bit of self-loathing in there, and I don't know if that feeds into the kink or is in spite of the kink. Yeah, that's a whole nother.
That's a whole nother thing. We'll go into our mental trauma another day.
Anyway, so yeah, we're gonna try and do these. Hopefully, you guys like this. We're gonna kind of spice up every 5th episode or so, and try and do something that's.
Eventually, we'll do live broadcasts even.
I would love to do live because then you can
we
throw
can
them at us, and we'll be like, hey, convert. You'll be like, hey, converge evolution like a whale to, I don't know, a butterfly, and we'll do it. We'll go one to another creature until
Oh, you
we
just
get.
want to. I can find the clade of that, but
I don't want to do it that way. I want to do it like fun.
um,
So yeah, so we'll get back to our normally scheduled programs, and hopefully everybody's having fun with us.
yes.
I'm
All right.
I'm having fun. See,
I'm having
I'm
fun.
smiling.
I'm going to have nightmares about Russians fucking
Orangutans, chimpanzees. They didn't. Let me tell you, they didn't stop where you think.